So I decided to start a little later this morning in order to be able to capture and check out the SpaceX launch, along with many of you probably. Of course, we had, if for those of you who don't know, we had a successful launch this morning. As we're now 15 or 20 minutes into that flight, everything was, as they say, nominal. And they opened up the door to that will eventually be the release door for satellites in the future. No satellites on this particular launch, but that was one of the first tests that they wanted to do on the flight. Coming up, of course, you'll have to listen later in the day or possibly all the way tonight with Bradford. We'll talk about the rest of the testing, including the transfer of fuels from one container to another, from one section of the ship to another, which has never been done before in space. This is a very important part of the mission, but the critical part of the mission was getting the launch 100% into orbit, and now also to see how things go through to the end. All 33 Raptor engines lit on the initial launch, and all 6 of the engines were also lit when the stage separation took place. Anyway, altogether, absolutely amazing, and gives us great hope for the future of space. The world at large doesn't get this at all. I doubt you're going to see any headlines. This will not be the headline story anywhere in the traditional media. Even though it might be maybe the most important thing that takes place, or one of the 2 or 3 most important things that take place this year. You've got ChatGPT and robots and all these things that are going on. So there's a lot of ways to get headlines right now in tech. But this one is huge, of course, in terms of communications, in terms of space tech, in terms of science from space, in terms of our ability to do things in space that are going to help folks on Earth, in terms of future exploration of whether that's the moon, the Mars, and beyond. And then there's the strategic advantage in terms of military. SpaceX has already got contracts with regard to StartShip for the future in the military space, and then you've got transportation of goods and services point to point. All of these things are being made possible by the fact that we have a successful launch today, and the next test is already being lined up, already being set up on the launch pad. I'm not sure when this will happen, but they're expecting 8 launches. I think it's 8 launches this year. I could be wrong. It could be 6, but I think it's 8 launches this year if everything goes well. So we could be making a lot of progress with StarShip this year. All right, this is Randy Kirk, by the way. Hit launch. Yeah, why don't you hit launch? And then hit like, subscribe, notify. Of course, we've got Cern Basher coming later this morning. He says he's got a bunch of additional charts and graphs and things about the economy, about Tesla. Who knows what he's got? I don't know until he gets here, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun and very, very interesting. If you've been following our shows with Cern Basher, you know it's always very fun stuff. Bradford Ferguson, again, will be here to usher in Good News Thursday. I'm hoping it's going to be good news. Last time I checked, Tesla was in the green. And he'll also, I'm sure, be talking about his most recent travels with version 12 of FSD. Maybe you've been following him. He's gone across the country. He's got new ones, I'm sure, that we'll be talking about tonight. Of course, join Patreon. Thank you so much for those who've joined recently, and please continue to help promote and produce the show. All right, from AI driver. Oh, there we go. AI driver with no E. AIDRIVR on X. He says, or she says, FSD 12.3 has arrived, and I promise to post videos without deleting my account after. Well, okay, what you may have heard or not heard is that 2 or 3 people, I think there's one person for sure we talked about yesterday morning, but now maybe 2 or 3 others who have posted a version 12.3 video and then have disappeared from X. Their entire accounts are no longer on X. So whether they're taking them down, whether Tesla has asked them for some reason not to produce these videos, and they've done it anyway. I have no idea. Nobody seems to know. But 12.3 is out. There are people that are getting 12.3. I'm sure that many of you, and including us here at the Kirk House, we'd like to get just version 12. That'd be great. All right, from Dylan Loomis in his YouTube broadcast last night, he reported that Troy Teslike believes that Cybertruck is up to about 300 units per week at this point, and it will come in around 2,000 for the first quarter. 300 a week, of course, would give us an annual production rate right now of 15,000. And if true, this is an excellent start. Now, other people have been reporting higher numbers than this, as high as 60 a day, which would be, more like 400 a week. Other people are saying it's over 100 a day. But there was 300 units in a drone flight, 300 units in the parking lot. That seems to speak pretty well about all these numbers. So things look really, really good so far for the ramp on Cybertruck. There is a lot of good news going on at Tesla, even if the stock isn't showing it right now. Now, listen, in other Elon Musk news, I made a decision that I really wanted to dive into the Don Lemon thing. As you may have heard, Elon Musk had made an agreement with Don Lemon, some kind of a special partnership with regard to Don Lemon putting his new show up on X. Now, Don Lemon can put his show up on X, just like I've done a couple of videos the last few days on X, and I'm going to be doing one in a little while. It'll be just part of what we've just done here, so you don't need to go chase it down. But the Don Lemon deal was special. It was unique. He could have just put up a regular show, but Elon said he wanted to partner with Don Lemon. I don't know exactly why that was or what that meant. I'm guessing that Don Lemon was going to get some additional pay. But then they did an interview, the two of them, Don Lemon interviewing Elon Musk, and then a couple of hours or an hour or so after the interview, Elon Musk said the deal is off. And that's been reported widely. We're talking about headlines across the earth, many more headlines than you're ever going to get out of StartShip. Is that crazy? No, headlines like crazy about Elon Musk canceling the deal with Don Lemon. So Don Lemon is out there going, well, he's about free speech and what in the world is going on here? Why would he cancel the deal? And I just asked him regular questions and, what? So in the meantime, Elon is out there and Elon is saying, look, it wasn't the kind of interview that is what I was expecting, what I believe is the right kind of interview for today. Now, I'm putting words in Elon's mouth. He basically said it was not transparent and that it seemed as if Jeff Zucker had written the questions. Now, what did that mean? I had to really, think about what did that mean that Jeff Zucker, the old ex-president or ex-CEO of CNN, had written the questions, and that it was not a transparent interview on the part of Don Lemon. So then I found some interviews with Don Lemon where he was talking about, well, listen, I just asked him this and I asked him that. I asked him about, the X and, how you could put up these kind of anti-Semitic kinds of statements and stuff and still say that, what about the hate speech and just going on and on. Here is my take. I think the questions were not the new popular form where two people of goodwill and without bias, did you hear me? With goodwill and without bias, come into the conversation trying to actually learn something. Rather, it was in the CNN kind of 10-minute interview formatting where the host comes in with a clear bias, with an intent to smear or with the intent to get something on the other person, to get a gotcha, to try to push forward the agenda of the interviewer rather than getting something from the interviewee that would be useful and helpful and move the conversation forward, and that would be transparent, that word that Elon used. I just want to have a conversation with you and learn about you. I want to learn something new. I want to continue to advance your what you're trying to do in the world in a way that maybe because I'm Don Lemon, I'm going to be able to get closer to something that would be useful to the crowd that I talk to. If you want a perfect example, you can look at the Tucker Carlson conversation yesterday with Chris Cuomo, where the two of them on completely opposite ends of the spectrum have this very transparent, very lovely conversation for over an hour. I highly recommend you check it out. That would be what Elon is looking for, not this kind of CNN gotcha deal. So I think that's what happened. I think it's totally makes sense. And Elon says, look, Don, you can continue to produce your show on X. Absolutely put it up there. You'll get paid like anybody else. If you get enough views, you're going to get income. You can be a content provider like everybody else out there. I just don't want a partnership with you if this is the nature of the show you're going to do. All right, that's what I'm thinking. Let me know in the comments below what you think about SpaceX. What do you think about the decision by Elon to stop that show? And then what do you think about this? Nissan is considering, according to Sawyer Merritt, Nissan is considering seeking a business partnership with Honda to collaborate on electric vehicles. There's a blind leading the blind thing that kind of comes to mind. How about you? Listen, it's like the Nikkei reported that Nissan and Honda could work together on electric vehicles to better compete with their Chinese rivals. Listen, this news is not shocking. Nissan is probably the first or second company to go in the next year or two. They're not doing well at all as a company. They're not doing well in the electric space. And it would make sense for them possibly to look to another Japanese company in terms of some kind of collaboration. There's going to be lots of collaboration. You're seeing it all over the world right now. Jaguar might go before Nissan, but Nissan's probably second to go out of the companies that are in trouble right now. Honda is not in leadership on EVs, though, or on BEVs. So why, in general, no, I don't get it. Of course, I think they should come to Tesla for that collaboration. Okay, Sawyer Merritt also reporting that Volkswagen on Thursday held out the prospect of launching an entry-level electric vehicle by 2027. VW brand chief Thomas Schaefer saying the company would decide in the coming weeks which model to move forward with. 2027, really? I know that's only 3 years away, but really? Okay, I don't know what to say. You may have heard yesterday that I forget his name, not right now, the guy from Wells Fargo talking about Tesla's Gen 3 vehicle probably not really having much impact until 2027. I think that's nonsense. The Gen 3 vehicle will be being produced in mid-2025 and will be ramping nicely in 2026. We're talking about next year and the following year, not 2027. By 2027, Volkswagen will be coming into a space where they'll be trying to catch up, as generally has been the case. From CNBC this morning, talk to the general market now. CNBC wholesale prices accelerated at a faster than expected pace in February. The PPI, another reminder that inflation remains a troublesome issue in the U.S. economy. The producer price index, which measures pipeline costs for raw, intermediate, and finished goods, jumped 0.6% on the month. 0.6%. This is 7.2%. The labor, on an annualized basis, the Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics reported. That was higher than the 0.3% forecast, you think? Like double, and much higher than the 0.3% last month. So then another piece of bad news with inflation. Again, it's surprising to me. I don't get it. I just admit that I don't get it. I would like the Labor Department to say, this is why we're different than Truflation. I'd like them to say, this is why on these specific things. Truflation, to some extent, is starting to say, this is why we're different. I'd love the Labor Department to come back and say, look, we see that Truflation is becoming a deal. The Fed Chief Powell has talked about Truflation. So the Labor Department can say, or the Bureau of Labor Statistics could come out and say, This is what we're seeing different than what Truflation is seeing. I mean, this is really crazy. So excluding food and energy, core PPI accelerated by that 0.3% compared to the estimate of 0.2%. And that, of course, that eliminates trade services, which increased at 0.4% compared to the 0.6. So trade services actually came down a bit. On a year-over-year basis, the headline index increased at 1.6. So the year-over-year is still fine. It's under that 2%, but that is the biggest move since September. Well, this was a busy morning for economic data, which also showed retail sales rebounding up 0.6% on the month, according to the Commerce Department, and that is adjusted seasonally, but not for inflation. Okay, so you got to take out 3% for inflation, which means that retail was up about 0.3%, roughly. Okay, that was revised after a revised 1.1 slump in January, but still below the estimated 0.8% increase that was expected to kind of balance out the big slump back in January. Then we had, now there's, let's see, the services, I'm sorry, on the retail side, data indicated that consumers kept ahead of CPI inflation, as I just said. Those sales were still sluggish. Excluding auto, retail sales were up 0.3. If that's unaffected by inflation, then you've got that at 0. 1/10 of a percentage point below expectations. Motor vehicle parts and dealers saw an increase of 1.6 for the month, second only to the 2.2 gain for building materials and garden centers for the month. Well, I bet you Home Depot's happy about that. Despite slumping prices, gasoline stations reported an increase of 0.9%. Electronics and appliance sales increased 1.5. So you're starting to see a little bit of the larger, longer-term products. Miscellaneous store sales increased 0.6. Restaurants and bars were up 0.4. So kind of overall, it's looking good until you take out inflation. Anyway, we also had initial filings for unemployment insurance nudged lower down to 209,000. So all of this suggests the economy is hot. Randy and Larry and so many people talking about this tough landing or the recession that we think coming up later this year. So far, the numbers coming out of the federal government are not suggesting this is true, except if you start digging a little deeper, as we just did. You take out inflation and the unit numbers are not increasing that much. Now, these are all better than expected. And so it does keep me in that 65-35 in terms of a possible recession. But you've got this inflation, which is hotter than expected. By the way, all of this, I might have missed a paragraph here. Services costs increased 0.3%. Big increase in traveler accommodation services. Also, we found that a big piece of this, a huge percentage of this, was gasoline. So oil prices are up. You know, we were as low as under $70 a barrel. We are now right at 80. We'll check it out in a minute, but it was right at 80. And so as oil prices go up, gasoline prices generally follow pretty closely, although it looks right now like gasoline is increasing faster in the United States. So gasoline prices are the biggest part of what's going on here in these inflation numbers, according to the folks over at the PPI. So that is where we are this morning. Let's see if I check, just make sure I didn't miss anything else. All right. Let's find out what's happening with markets. So far, they were not terribly, well, as quick as I say that, now the equity markets are definitely not looking great. So where are we? We have got everything starting to go down. Tesla down $3.50. It was up as much as $1.50. It is now down $3.50. So the markets, which had started out in the green, 100% in the green, have reversed rapidly. You've got the Dow down 133, the NASDAQ down 64, S&P down 19, and as I mentioned, Tesla down 3. You've got the Magnificent Seven. You've got NVIDIA down 27 this morning. although all of these are now beginning to hit a bottom and begin to start back up again. Let's look at the percentages. You've got the Dow down 0.31, NASDAQ down 0.37, S&P down 0.36. Look at that. All three about in the same range. That's odd. Tesla down 1.89%. NVIDIA, as mentioned, down 2.97 at 881, so well under the 900 at this point. Let's look at the Cathie Woods. Those are all down except for PayPal. Every single one is down now in the 2%, 1.7, 3% range. So yeah, this is more or less what I would have expected from that PPI print and from the hotter print with regard to the unemployment numbers, the hotter print with regard to retail. Everything this morning is going the opposite of the way the Fed wants it. And so probably looking at interest rates staying higher for longer. And let's go look at those bonds, because you are going to guess correctly that the bonds are, of course, up 7 basis points. The 10-year is up 7 basis points, well above my 4.25 at 4.265. What does that mean for the rest of them? It's showing the 2-year up, not quite as much. So a slight revision in the inversion, a slightly down. You've got the 2-month at even. So that is a compression of the inversion as well. The 10-year up 7 full basis points right now. Okay, let's go into oil. We have got oil continuing to be over 80 this morning, $80.67. That's up $1. You've got natural gas up 1.27% at $1.68, but that's still in a normal range. Brent, by the way, going up about the same amount as the Texas Intermediate. You got the dollar kicking up this morning a little bit, not huge, but it is up a little bit this morning. You've got gold down this morning. See, right now, gold is not acting normal. This seems maybe gold is being impacted more by international plays rather than by the traditional retail market. Not 100% sure. We'll see what happens here. Gold is down 14 to 2166, still at a very, very high level. You got copper down this morning, still over $4 though, at $4.05. It is down 0.32%. You've got Bitcoin down this morning by 1,000, sitting at 72,000, just under that now. Yeah, okay, let's go back and take a look at the stock market again, just real quick. Still continuing to be ticking back up a little bit. You've got Tesla now down to 51, and the Dow Jones down 118. All of the Magnificent Seven actually in the green, except for NVIDIA. The rest of the Magnificent Seven are in the green at this point. Okay. All right, let's see. What do I want to mention to you? I do want to mention to you that yesterday I did 2 videos on the robots. A lot of my videos are going to be about robots going forward. If you're not interested in robots, you're going to, about a third, probably, I don't know, maybe not a third. At 20 videos at least per week, I'm going to say that 5 will probably be about robots. It is the most important. No, space is not the most important. Space is not as important as what's going to happen with these robots. This is the story of this decade. ChatGPT will be secondary. All of the things with regard to AI, I mean, a robot is going to be an AI matter. And if you didn't see the video yesterday that I did with showing Brett Adcock and showing their new figure AI speaking and working at the same time and having a normal conversation, pretty normal conversation with a human while doing the work, you need to see that. The card will be up here, as well as the card for the Scott Walter interview that I did yesterday, where we're talking about the general bot business. I'm going to say it again. Space is important. It's going to be critical. It's going to be huge. It's going to change a lot of the human experience going forward in terms of the cost of things and the ability to do certain kinds of science and communications. Massive, massive changes. And SpaceX, some people believe, will be the most valuable company in the world, even more valuable than Tesla. I don't. I think that Tesla will be the most valuable in the company in the world because it has got the robots and it's going to be the leader. And some people are saying this morning, oh, but look at, the figure AI, it was way better than anything we've seen from Tesla. It was, no doubt about it. But Tesla hasn't shown us anything in a couple of weeks. No, begin to wonder, are they sort of pulling back and not going to show all their cards as they have been in the past? Because Elon mentioned, why are we doing that? I've mentioned my shock now for a couple of days in a row that companies are basically showing everything they got. That's very unusual in any business that I've ever been associated with or watched. So anyway, okay, that's all I got. We'll see what happens later this morning. Be sure to check us out later in the day with Cern Basher and then with Bradford Ferguson. It has been great speaking with you.